भाई आजकल उड़ांटा बहुत फेमस हो रहा है, तो आखिर क्या है ये उड़ांटा?
ये देखो, उड़ांटा इज एवरी मूवी आपके हाथ में।
वाह, इतनी सारी फिल्में हैं।
सारी फिल्में, जो भी टाइप करना आप करो और फिल्म बताएं।
Damn.
Hi Badal, welcome to Udanta Offline.
Hey man, glad to be here.
It's great to have you here, man. It's great to be here in Delhi, even
Yeah.
though it's very hot. But
Of
chalo,
course.
we'll manage. So today our theme is beliefs because I know Cine Saga talks a lot about philosophy and it talks a lot about like what you feel when you watch something. So today I wanted to keep the theme as something like what we believe when we watch movies, right?
Absolutely.
So my first question is a little bit childhood type guy because what happens is when I was small, and I think a lot of people will agree with this, that when they used to see a movie when they were young, they used to see only actors, right?
Absolutely.
And they would think that actors are the ones who made the movie, right? Because वो आता नहीं के because there's a film crew, there's a photographer, there's an editor, there's a music guy. So नहीं होता, you place it on actors. So what other beliefs have you heard about or have you discussed with people when you're working with Cine Saga that have like, okay, you'll think they are like a full myth? Like what kind of these, small stupid beliefs that people have about films?
So back in the day when I used to watch films and I used to love action movies, ekdam action, and I was a big fan of these kind of movies. So often in action movies, you often find that the actor doesn't really do all the stunts. As a kid, you don't really know. You're like, यही हीरो है, यही सब कुछ करता है, ऋतिक रोशन ऊपर से कूद रहा है, बाइक चला रहा है, सब कुछ वही कर रहा है. But then I got to know there's a concept called stunt doubles, and there are actually replicas or very like doppelganger kind of people to the actors. And then I was like, wow, like my world is ruined. Hrithik Roshan itna cool nahi hai. And then the same goes with any other actor, dude. Like Akshay Kumar, Shah Rukh Khan, or even the Hollywood Tom Cruise stuff.
Yeah, all the James Bond movies. So there was this quote by like Roger Moore tha, one of the James Bond, and he's like, "Agar if we do all these shoots like stunts on our own, we'll be dead within 5 minutes." So it is. So today I got you one of my favorite books for you, and so what I wanted to ask you this one question. Recently, like you must have heard of Power of the Dog, the film that came out, and even like movies like Heather and adaptations basically from books. So I wanted to ask you, since you speak a lot about philosophy on Cine Saga, like do adaptations, especially where the story is very well written before you make the film, do they have a better grasp on all the philosophical themes or like humanity के बारे में जो बोलना चाह रहे हैं वो लोग? Is that so? Have you noticed this in films that are adapted?
I have seen a few cases. Like recently, I've been extremely obsessed with this show called Normal People. Right?
You've seen.
It's all over my account.
Yeah.
So I feel that way. The reason why it's able to connect to me so deeply and so profoundly, and I'm like, they are like made for each other, Connell and Marianne, because they have a beautiful source material in place of them. Sally Rooney written it, and it's beautiful. But I won't really say that it is the case always. I would always take it with a grain of salt and would say that there are some movies which are able to grasp, because in the end movies are also written by beautiful actors. Beautiful writers. And these writers write really good, and they are also able to grasp the concept of philosophy, the concept of how human connections are made, and so on. So I won't really say that, but I've seen that example as you have just said. I believe that.
But then if you say the other way, like what films are there that are written specifically for a film format and they've like really managed to like touch you with what they've spoken about humanity?
So there's this Indian film called Surf.
Yeah,
it's on
Tilak
Netflix.
Showman.
And it's absolutely beautiful. I saw it with little to no expectations. I had no idea what it's gonna be like. But the way it depicts the class difference, the way it depicts the connection between the rich guy and the poor mate, it's so serene, dude. Like I'm almost in awe of the way that some films are written and the way they depict these human emotions. Beautiful.
That's definitely true. That film is very well made.
Absolutely.
Well deserving of whatever.
I cried like a baby, dude. In that
and the thing is, it was apparently released in 2018. And this is when it got its recognition.
I think it even got some awards.
Yeah, it won. I think she won Filmfare and stuff. So she's a very great actor,
Absolutely.
definitely. So I'm sure you must have. I've seen a lot of posts of Eternal Sunshine on your account, Truman Show as well. So I wanted to ask you this little different lens, say, like when these films like Truman Show and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, when they recommend, when they speak about philosophy and the human life, right? Either love or like how to grow up, like in Truman Show.
Yeah.
So they've used sci-fi, right, as a medium to talk about all of this. So like, I just wanted to hear what you thought about like, using something that is not like philosophy and sci-fi is like
Absolutely.
far apart. But how does it work? Like, why does it work?
That's what really catches me. The concept that you're using such a diverse medium to show a completely polar opposite emotion.
Yeah.
The amalgamation of sci-fi with human connection is beautiful, and this particular genre of sci-fi meeting say romance or sci-fi meeting human connections, movies like Her, movies like Comet, they have all my heart, man. And the way they're able to grasp it, it really sometimes blow my mind because as you just said, sci-fi is completely different. When you watch sci-fi, the first thing that would come in your mind is space travel, rockets, different planets, interstellar, exactly all those things. But the way they are able to communicate, taking sci-fi maybe as an object, like they had Samantha in Her, or maybe like parallel universes in Comet. There are different examples the way they use the medium of sci-fi, and they are able to connect it into human connection. So I'm like all in for sci-fi and human connections.
Because I think it's science fiction can also be like even on, like suppose like 2001 A Space Odyssey and all those movies, like it's always
Blade Runner.
Yeah, Blade Runner. It's always better when they talk about something human.
Yeah.
In that medium, because क्या होता है ना, audience को लगता है कि we are watching something else, and they're left with also something else.
And you surprise them like, boo, you're not over, dude.
Definitely.
Yeah, they got human connection.
So if you have one recommendation for a sci-fi film that is touching upon human connections, but not something like people have seen like Interstellar or something, what would it be?
I still recommend to my audience all the time the film called Comet. Okay. It's by Sam Ismail, the creator of Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot also a beautiful show.
Beautiful show.
So the Comet is one of his films which he made, and it has the concept of two people who are sharing. It's the story of the relationship, but across 6 different parallel universes or 6 different timelines. You really don't are able to comprehend that what exactly is happening. Which timeline are we in? Is this real? Is this a dream? But the human emotions that they share, and they have a doomed relationship. It's a film which is not to be missed. Highly recommended.
I agree. Comet. I've not seen. Chalo, good recommendation.
Yeah, you should, man. You should.
I'll check it out definitely. But that was a great answer. Like I agree with all your points. Okay. So now Cine Saga. I think we've spoken before also about Cine Saga, but I wanted to ask you this in a different way. So a lot of people must be asking you, how did you start Cine Saga? And I wanted to ask you if you had to explain your job as the the founder and the guy who runs Cine Saga to a child, how would you do it? Like suppose क्या spark क्या है the Cine Saga that makes it very, what do you say, universal to people?
I believe even a child would somewhat relate to connections that they make, the friendships that they make in their perspective. They would also have friends. They might even have lost some friends. Even a 5-year-old, I had some friendship breakups even when I was small. Someone moving away, someone
don't realize, but हो जाता है.
Yeah, हो जाता है. So I would just say them to I have a movie account where I show films which depict the same emotions as maybe you would have faced sometime in your life. And if you're able to read the captions, or if you're able to somewhat in some capacity relate to the account, then I think that's the job done for me. So
ठीक है. Rapid fire time.
Oh.
Okay.
Bring it on.
Recommendations only mostly.
Oh.
But so for this has to be asked. What are the essential movies for someone like a student of philosophy?
Number 1, Ship of Theseus. Great movie. Number 2, I would say just sit at once, have like 6 hours of time and start with Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. Essentially it's a love story, but it shows way much of emotions about human relationships and human connection. Third thing I would say to a student of philosophy, maybe just watch Her. The movie Her. It's not an entire philosophical film, but it depicts the concept of grief and loss in manners which I have never seen. So definitely those were my top 3.
Wonderful. ठीक है. So since you mentioned ship of thesis, why like this is rapid fire तो हो गया, but like why ship of thesis? Like क्या तुमने क्या ढूंढा था वो movie में? Because I feel everyone has very different opinions on it. Some people hate the movie क्योंकि क्या बता रहे हैं. Some people fail to understand it. Some people like talk about it but without समझने like trying to understand what they are saying. So what did you take from it?
So essentially, Ship of Theseus was a film which had three different stories and they're somewhat aligned in one manner. So that specific genre, which has multiple story parallelly running and they sort of combine together is really profound to me. I really love that genre. Secondly, talking about philosophy, so there was this, what do you say? Maybe a saint. Do you call them saint? The guy who was
the monk.
Yeah, the monk. Yeah. So the conversations he had and his way of life. They had they had one beautiful exchange between a young student and the monk. The young student's life and philosophy is all about a fast-paced life. Why don't you believe in this? Why don't you believe in medicine? Why don't you believe in money? All those kind of things. But monk has a completely different perspective. He has no materialistic gain out of anything. The way they exchange and they're not trying to really win an argument, but it's just a conversation and just able to hear and communicate your thoughts well. So that really got me.
A film that never makes you think, मतलब full time pass film that you will enjoy, or maybe तुम Cine Saga पे ज़्यादा बात नहीं कर पाओगे उसकी, but some guilty pleasure of yours.
Guilty pleasure, great genre. So I really like this Bollywood film. Okay, it's called Welcome. Must guilty pleasure है.